Have you ever looked at a map and wondered why the world is shaped the way it is? Why certain cultures, languages, and ideas are spread across vast, seemingly disconnected regions? A huge piece of that puzzle can be traced back to one man and his epic ambition, Alexander the Great. His conquests didn't just build a massive empire. They fundamentally redrew the map of the ancient world and set in motion events that still ripple through our lives today. So, who is this guy? Alexander was born in 356 BC in Macedonia, a kingdom in northern Greece. His father, Philip II, was a brilliant military strategist who had already united most of Greece under his rule. From a young age, Alexander was groomed for greatness. He was tutored by none other than the philosopher Aristotle, who instilled in him a love for knowledge, culture, and a deep curiosity about the world. But make no mistake, he was also a warrior. Stories of him taming the wild horse Bucephalus at just 12 years old showed his courage and determination. When his father was assassinated, Alexander, at just 20 years old, inherited the throne and a powerful, battle-hardened army. His father's plan had been to invade the massive Persian Empire, the superpower of the day. Alexander didn't just adopt this plan, he supercharged it. In 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, with an army of about 40,000 men. This was a David versus Goliath situation. The Persian Empire, led by King Darius III, was colossal, stretching from Egypt to India. But Alexander had a few secret weapons: tactical genius, an army that was fiercely loyal to him, and an unwavering belief in his own destiny. His first major victory came at the Battle of the Granicus River. The Persians expected a conventional fight, but Alexander did the unexpected. He led a daring cavalry charge directly across the river and straight into the heart of the Persian lines. It was a stunning victory that sent shockwaves through the empire. The cities of Asia Minor, many of which were originally Greek colonies, began to open their gates to him, hailing him as a liberator. But Alexander wasn't just conquering. He was exploring and adapting. He famously visited the city of Gordium, where he encountered the legendary Gordian knot. The prophecy said that whoever could untie this incredibly complex knot would rule all of Asia. After struggling with it for a bit, Alexander, in a moment of classic out-of-the-box thinking, simply drew his sword and sliced it in half. It was a powerful symbol of his approach. When faced with an impossible problem, find a direct and decisive solution. His next major showdown with Darius III was at the Battle of Issus. Here, Alexander was severely outnumbered. But again, his brilliant tactics won the day. He identified a weak point in the Persian formation and led a decisive charge, aiming directly for Darius himself. Darius fled the battlefield in panic, abandoning his army and even his own family, who were then captured by Alexander. Alexander treated them with respect and honor, a move that further enhanced his reputation, not just as a conqueror, but as a noble king. From there, he marched down the Mediterranean coast. Most cities surrendered, but the island city of Tyre resisted. What followed was one of the most incredible engineering feats of the ancient world. For 7 months, Alexander's army built a massive causeway, a land bridge, across the sea to the island fortress. It was an audacious, almost impossible task, but they succeeded. The fall of Tyre was a brutal lesson to anyone else who thought of defying him. Next stop, Egypt. The Egyptians, who had long resented Persian rule, welcomed Alexander as a liberator. The priests declared him a pharaoh, and even a son of the god Amun. It was here, at the mouth of the Nile, that he founded the most famous of the many cities that would bear his name, Alexandria. He envisioned it as a great center of trade, culture, and learning, and it would become just that, home to the legendary Library of Alexandria and a beacon of knowledge for centuries. With the entire eastern Mediterranean under his control, Alexander turned inland to confront Darius III one last time. The final decisive battle took place at Gaugamela in modern-day Iraq. Once again, Alexander was outnumbered, facing a Persian army of perhaps 250,000 soldiers, complete with scythed chariots and war elephants. Darius had chosen a wide, flat plain to give his numbers an advantage. But Alexander's strategy was a masterpiece. He used a feigned flank attack to draw the Persian cavalry out of position, creating a gap in their center. As he had at Issus, he led a wedge-shaped charge straight through that gap, heading directly for Darius. And just like at Issus, Darius fled. The Persian army collapsed, and the empire was effectively his. Alexander marched into Babylon, and then Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of Persia, claiming the title of King of Asia. But Alexander wasn't done. His curiosity and ambition knew no bounds. He wanted to reach the ends of the world and the great outer sea. He pushed his army further east, into lands that are now Afghanistan and Pakistan. The terrain was brutal, the mountains were treacherous, and the local tribes fought fiercely. Yet, he kept going. It was in this region that he married Roxana, the daughter of a local chieftain, a political move to unify his new subjects and bridge the gap between his Greek and Persian cultures. His final great battle was in India, at the Hydaspes River, against King Porus and his army of war elephants. The elephants terrified Alexander's horses and men, but once again, his tactical flexibility won out. He surrounded and defeated Porus's army in a grueling battle. Impressed by Porus's bravery, Alexander allowed him to keep his kingdom, making him an ally. By this point, his army was exhausted. They had marched thousands of miles, fought countless battles, and had been away from home for over 8 years. When Alexander announced his plans to march even further into the Indian subcontinent, his men finally mutinied. They had followed him to the edge of the known world, but this was a step too far. A reluctant Alexander finally agreed to turn back. The return journey was disastrous. He split his forces, sending part of the army back by sea, while he led the rest through the brutal Jedrosian desert. Thousands died from heat and thirst. It was a rare and costly miscalculation. When he returned to Persia, Alexander focused on consolidating his vast new empire. He encouraged his soldiers to marry Persian women, and he himself took 2 more Persian wives. He integrated Persian soldiers into his army and adopted some Persian customs, like prostration. This policy of fusion was controversial among his Macedonian veterans, who felt he was abandoning his Greek roots. But Alexander envisioned a new blended Hellenistic culture that would unite East and West. Tragically, he would never see his vision fully realized. In 323 BC, in Babylon, after a prolonged bout of fever, Alexander the Great died. He was just 32 years old. On his deathbed, when asked who should inherit his empire, he supposedly whispered, "To the strongest." His death plunged the empire into chaos. His generals, known as the Diadochi or successors, immediately began fighting among themselves for control. For decades, the wars of the successors raged, and Alexander's unified empire was carved up into several new kingdoms. The Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt, the Seleucid Empire in the former Persia, and the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia and Greece were the most significant. So, how did this shape our world? Alexander's conquests weren't just about land. They were about culture. He brought Greek language, art, philosophy, and political ideas to every corner of his empire. This blending of Greek or Hellenic culture with the cultures of the East created a new, vibrant civilization we call the Hellenistic world. Greek became the international language of commerce and scholarship, much like English is today. Cities from Egypt to Afghanistan were built on the Greek model. This cultural diffusion was his most enduring legacy. It laid the groundwork for the Roman Empire, influenced the spread of both Judaism and Christianity, and preserved and transmitted vast amounts of knowledge that fueled the European Renaissance over 1,000 years later. The territories his successors carved out formed the basic political geography of the Middle East and Eastern Mediterranean for centuries. The divisions and connections he created are still visible in the cultural and genetic maps of the region today. From a 20-year-old king to the master of the largest empire the world had ever seen in just over a decade, Alexander's story is more than just history. It's a testament to the power of ambition, strategic genius, and the profound, world-altering impact a single individual can have. His conquests didn't just determine territories. They created a new world,